Welcome to Roski Talks, and this is our guest, Bryan Allen, who is a designer and friend for many, many years. He's an entertainment designer, and I hope you enjoy his talk. I'm going to ask Alan to give a very brief introduction, and then it'll be yours.
Awesome.
Yeah?
Oh, no, that's okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Zimmerman. I am a design MFA second year, and it's my privilege to introduce Bryan Allen. During his 35 years in Hollywood, Bryan Allen worked in all aspects of entertainment advertising, including production artist, illustrator, designer, art director, creative director, studio executive, and business owner. In the late 1980s, while creative director at RCA/Columbia Home Entertainment, Bryan was involved in the early development of higher resolution digital imaging. In the 1990s, as senior vice president and creative director of creative advertising at Paramount Pictures, Bryan created Paramount Pictures' in-house creative agency, 5555. In 1998, Bryan founded Faction Creative, an award-winning entertainment design agency. Bryan is currently president and CEO of Coyote Studios, LLC. He is involved in all aspects of entertainment advertising, including print, social, augmented reality, and motion graphics, while also engaged as a working fine artist. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce Bryan Allen.
Thank you. Quick question. Is it okay for me to take this off to speak? Is that all right? Is that okay with you guys? Okay, good. I'm so vaccinated it's not real. Okay, I'm gonna set this down. All right, this is awesome. I don't usually use a microphone because I am a loud person. So if you can't hear me, just wave and go like, "Hey, what did you say?" But I promise you, I'll keep the level up. All right. That little bio is very funny. I wrote that, and it's really funny to hear it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, you know. I have been doing entertainment design since about 1986. A very, very long time, since before Photoshop, so I am what you would call strictly from commercial. I'm currently doing fine art, but what I did for a very, very long time was very commercial stuff. And so I'm going to show you some things, and we'll talk about process, we'll talk about the business, and at any time that you have a question, just raise a hand or say hey or whatever. And I'd like to stay as interactive with you guys as possible, and we'll keep this high energy and not too long. So I'm going to show you this little piece of, this is a little promo piece that was done at the last company I worked at. I was Senior Vice President, Creative Director there. And so forgive me, this is advertising, but hang with me.
People don't understand what we do in print advertising. It has to be more of a symbolic way of telling a story.
Filmmakers have hundreds and thousands of frames to make their reviews. We have one.
Behind the scenes, there's an entire team of people that collaborate to come up with this one image that makes people go see it and get really excited. There's this misconception that graphic design is just moving pencils around on a computer and playing with Photoshop.
Yeah.
Sorry.
From the brush stroke to carving, the pencil line, all of these things are what bring energy and personality to our art. This is a business where everything we make is handmade.
We have a really incredible team. We're all here because we're just passionate about design.
I've been so fortunate in these years to work in this business. It's such an amazing experience to get these wild, wild projects that people pay you to work on creative solutions for, and then they put tens of millions of dollars into making sure everyone in the world sees what you did. It is an incredible experience. Now that being said, it is also a giant ball of mayhem. It is absolutely a nutty business. And even when you know what's going on, it'll make you feel crazy sometimes, all right? So that's my little intro piece. I was advised to talk about some of my favorite pieces. I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to get into why the business seems so crazy. And we'll talk a little bit about structure. But before I talk structure, I don't want to lose everybody early, so I'm going to talk about faves. Let's see. All right. So basically, this is kind of a list that goes back a ways, because I've been doing this a very long time. People ask me frequently, what was your favorite poster that you did? And I have done a lot of posters. And my favorite one is The Truman Show, Mosaic. That's my favorite poster. And of course, you know, there's lots of software now that allows you to make mosaics. But back when this poster was made, there was one guy who could do it. His name was Rob Silvers, and he had developed the technology at MIT Media Lab. And I've been following his progress in Wired magazine. And I went to the set, and on set I saw all these tiny little cameras everywhere, which of course is the concept of the film, that his whole life is being filmed constantly. And I thought, wow, you can see this guy's whole life. And then I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if you could see his whole life in one shot on one poster? So I had a unit photographer who was shooting everything on set. I hired 2 more photographers, and we shot everything in the movie. We shot thousands of images. Then we took those images, we cropped them into squares, and then we took those squares and we gave them to Rob Silvers, and he made a mosaic. The mosaic is based on a photograph that we took with David LaChapelle later. So I'll show you the, do you guys know who David LaChapelle is, anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of, he's amazing. So if you don't know, check him out, he's cool. So this was a LaChapelle, the overarching shot was a LaChapelle shot. I was very happy with this poster. I think I was happiest with it because it had the least amount of dicking around of a poster I've ever done. Well, almost. Because when it was done, everybody looked at it and said, well, that's done. You know, what are you going to do with it, right? I mean, you could get into swapping out little photos here and there, but nobody did because it was a little overwhelming. So I was very happy with that. The production designer was a man named Dennis Gassner, who is a great production designer, and he had used Gil Sans in a lot of his design work for the film. And if you know Gil Sans at all, it's a fabulous font because in its lighter settings it's quite graceful. And then as it gets heavier and heavier, it gets more and more eccentric until it's just practically goofy. So up there, the Jim Carrey setting is a medium set, which is a little funny. But the Truman Show down there, if you look at Truman, it's set in this big, bold Gil Sans, and it's goofy. I mean, look at the weights, look at the balance. It's very, very humanistic. It's very eccentric. So I also put it inside a red bar because you can't get type to read over an image that has so much immediate contrast to it. Every photo has its own contrast range. And so I got Jim Carrey's name to read up on top because I cheated everything dark. But anywhere else on that poster you put type, you're just lost. So that's why it was designed the way it was. This one, best of show, best poster of the year, best copy line at the Key Articles, which are now the Clios, and I was very happy with it. A note about collaboration. The thing to remember about this business, if you get into it, if you want to get into this business, you have to remember something. Filmmaking is, in my mind, maybe the most collaborative art form there is. At very, very high commercial levels, it requires hundreds of people. and it requires a lot of people to share the same vision to achieve a great result. If you're going to work on it, you need to realize that you have ideas, you are important to the process, but other people are also part of the process. So it's important to remember that there were 4 photographers attached to this. There was the production work of Dennis Gassner. There's the wonderful eye of all these different people that worked on it. There's all of the set design, all the costume design. So I like to take credit for this. It's a team effort. It's a very big team effort. All of these things are. Second poster. Come on, baby. There you go. This is one of my favorite posters because it's just a beautiful poster. This is the poster for Pan's Labyrinth. This is an idea that came out of a basic notion of a creative director named Tracy Weston, who is a very, very talented and very accomplished designer and creative director. And Tracy talked to a young woman named Magriki Berg, and Mags did the overall concept of this with the gay. Tracy kind of brought the tree into it, and then Mags brought in the overall idea to it, and then I executed this. So I like to take credit for execution. Again, big team effort, and I want to point out a couple of things. The tree is a painting. The tree is a gouache painting. Took a JPEG, blew it up, and printed it on watercolor paper and sent it to an artist named to Dave Christensen. And Dave painted the tree in gouache. Then the little tiny branches coming off of the tree, I shot with an iPhone on my tree outside my house. The vines on the side are all shot in a studio. The archway is a piece of unit photography. And then the foreground and the background are all stock photography. All in all, it's probably 20, 25 different pieces of source material. Again, very, very collaborative effort. I'm just very happy with the result. I thought it was a beautiful piece. Any questions?
Is Tracy still working?
I don't think she is. I don't think she is. The last time I spoke to her, she was not. She is talented, accomplished, and clearly very wise. Okay, now from really beautiful stuff to cheesecake. I used to work as an illustrator for an airbrush illustrator named Dave Willardson. And Willardson used to paint all these fantastic things, and I always wanted to paint a pinup girl. Always wanted to do it. So I finally got to do one, and I painted this for Harold and Kumar, which was a really incredibly fun campaign to work on. Got to paint the girl, got to paint the burger, got to do the photo shoot with those two guys. Those two guys are very much the way they look at this poster. John Cho was very, very uptight and nervous. Cal Penn was very cool and relaxed. And all in all, I was very happy with it. Although, I will say this, the original concept had them cropped here, right? It was a straight, what we call a kill wheeling. Just their eyes looking over the bottom. And I was sad that it got pushed around and kind of got the edge taken off, but anyway, there it is. I was still happy with it. I thought it was a beautiful piece. I don't even know what I have up next here. There you go. Angelina Jolie. Okay. I got to work on the film Tomb Raider. And Tomb Raider was based on an extremely popular video game. At the time, the most popular video game in the world. It was just huge. And it was one of those opportunities for a studio to either hit a grand slam or do a really bad job and look like fools. And so one of the first things they did was they cast Angelina Jolie, who had just won the Academy Award. And so now they've brought in this actor who is very highly thought of, young, very respected already in the business. So we did hundreds and hundreds of sketches. And we showed hundreds of sketches, which I will show on Thursday too, by the way. They will be up on the wall so you can see that crazy process. We did hundreds of sketches. We narrowed them down to about 30. I went to London, met with Angelina, showed her the sketches. She told me the ones that she wouldn't shoot, which she shot anyway. And then we did a photo shoot at Pinewood Studios with David LaChapelle again. And we got, I think, some amazing stuff. This poster that you see here is actually, this was actually approved by the studio. Yes, yes.
So when you present that to an actor or actress, what about the sketches did she specifically not want to shoot?
Okay, so you have like 30 things, right? You know they're going to kill some of them. They have every right to. Their image is their brand, and you have to respect that. And so you show them ideas, and they will look. Some of your ideas are more extreme than others. Some of your ideas are her hanging upside down, or some of them are rappelling off a wall, or that kind of thing. And sometimes they say, okay, that's fine, or I'm not sure my character would do that, or I don't do that in the film, I don't want to do that in the photo shoot, that kind of thing. That's a legitimate discussion to have. And the reason you take 30 ideas in is because you expect it to get knocked down to 10. You know, I mean, you expect them to kill 20 out of them. And because maybe if you're lucky, you will get 10 shots. Maybe, okay? So it's a negotiation. But it has to be a creative negotiation because you need certain things to advertise the film, you think, because you don't know yet, but they also have to protect their brand. So there's, you know, it's a legitimate discussion. And I met her right after she had done a very, very demanding physical scene. And she came out, she was all sweaty, and she said, yeah, no, I don't think so, yeah, no, I don't think so. And I said, okay, cool, these are the no pile, and I just folded them up and took these with us. It took a few minutes, it was very fast. Then Pinewood Studios gave us an entire soundstage. So we set up 7 light sets, and we took the entire day before the shoot with Angelina, we shot the entire thing the day before with a body double, so that we had everything worked out, so that we could shoot really fast. On the day of the shoot, Angelina came in, and she was all made up, and she had her hair done and all that stuff. And she said, what do you think? And I said, I need you to be sweaty, and I need your hair to be pulled out like it's like you've been physically active. I need you to look very physically exercised, right? Because one of the things that was going on in culture at this time was American culture was beginning to understand the concept of physically powerful women. It was beginning to understand that women who are athletic could also be thought of as beautiful, as attractive, and not just when they're all made up and perfectly coiffed and perfectly dressed. And so hair and makeup did a little bit of stuff on her. She did about 100 push-ups, and then I mean, serious. She was telling jokes while she was doing push-ups. She was like, so this Russian guy walks into this room. You know, it was really amazing. So all the sweat that you see on this is all real sweat. This piece got through the entire approval process. It got through marketing, it got through the CEO, it got through the COO, it got through everybody at Paramount, and then Angelina killed it. So you guys are seeing something that was never published. It was never published, it was never seen. And it was one of those things that killed me, because a poster this size, she would have actually, at full poster size, she would have been life size. And that's what we wanted. We wanted her in the theater, in frames, life size. That's what we were looking for. And we couldn't get it. She just felt like it was not an attractive pose. And she felt like she had worked very, very hard to achieve her physicality, and she wanted it seen. So we didn't get to do this, and we didn't get a Christmas teaser in the theaters, which was an epic fail. So, moving on. So the rest of these things are different pieces. This is the title treatment. You'll see a little bit later how this title treatment came to be. But it was originally designed by a guy named Scott Dobson, very, very talented creative director now. And Scott did the type design on it. The design in the background was done by Roger Morrison, again, very, very talented creative director. The Celtic part on top, and then the star chart on the bottom, that was my little idea, thank you. And Rigel put that together, and then we took all of this to this guy who's on my staff, Bill Sneebel, super talented designer and CG artist, and he took it all into 3D and rendered it out for this effect. This particular treatment became almost emblematic of a style of action movie following on. In fact, we were asked to do it several times for other action movies. Like, can you do it like Tomb Raider? Like, yeah, we can. So this was the original teaser. This was the teaser 30 sheet. Angelina never posed like this. We couldn't do it. So we got a kickboxer body level, and we shot her rappelling off a piece of plexiglass so we could get the light on it right. And then we stripped it all together and put Angelina's head on it, and there it is. This is probably a 30 or 40 piece strip. Same story here. That's the kickboxer's body. And I gotta tell you right now, Angelina was in such amazing shape. There was like no difference between them. They're muscular, they're cut, everything was great. The motorcycle here is from a piece of unit photography. Unit photography is photography that's taken while the film is being made. So they capture different aspects of it. They captured the bike, and then we shot the model on another motorcycle, stripped her in, and then made it into it. Same thing, same idea. I just love these. I thought these are super dynamic, and I really like the fact that she was, there you go. She was Angelina. She's fabulous and beautiful, but she also was, very active. This is a close up of the final poster. The final poster for me was a terrible letdown, to be honest with you. And the main reason it was is if you ever want to do this, it's hysterical, and I'll do it on Thursday, but it's hysterical. The actual game art is the same as this poster. It's just in the game art, it's an animated figure, and then the poster is just her. So I'm happy with the poster because I think it's beautifully done. There's a lot of good stories to it. I got to go to Iceland and shoot on glaciers, and I got to roll a car and almost get killed. It was awesome. But this poster I like for its craftsmanship more than anything else. I think it's a beautiful piece. The next one should be the second. This one was hysterical. For some reason I didn't get hired to work on the second movie. I don't know why. And my client, Nancy Gallagher, who was back then EVP at Paramount Pictures, called me and said, hey, I need some intervention. I have too much stuff to look at. Will you come and look at it with me and edit it? And I said, sure I will. So I went to her office, and she had hundreds of Tomb Raider posters up. And she had this series of Angelina wearing this silver wetsuit. But they had all been shot like it's standing height, right? And the psychology of that is wrong, okay? When you look at a hero, you look up at a hero. This is why the statues are on pedestals. This is why they're bigger than life. Heroes are bigger than you are. This is the psychology of the hero. And so I was looking at all these things and I said, look, you got the right stuff, but you got the wrong angle, you got the wrong perspective. She needs to look like Botticelli's Venus rising out of the water in a super badass suit with guns and stuff, And the client said, okay, smartass, go do it. So we went, and there was no special shoot at this point. We couldn't go get any more shots of Angelina. So we had to go through the existing photography. And again, Rigel Morrison, the guy who previously had designed that beautiful mark, Rigel found about 3 photographs in succession that were behind the scenes photos. They were going out to shoot a water scene and she was standing on the edge of a boat like this, and the boat was rocking. And the photographer was on the other side of the boat. So the photo went like this: high angle, medium angle, low angle. That low angle shot is what we used for this. It was a piece of 35mm film. We scanned the hell out of it, blew it up, and retouched it to death. And then the coolest thing for me about this poster is the title treatment. We went to the client and we showed them this thing with this giant title treatment. And they said, well, you can't read the title. And we said, you don't need to read the title. Everybody in the world knows who Angelina Jolie is. Everybody in the world knows what Tomb Raider is. If you want to be ballsy, send it out there like this. Make the statement. It's too big for the poster. And they bought it, so I was very happy with that. Questions? Anybody? Questions? No? Okay. Yes.
I have a quick question about just the production. You said you touched this up a lot. Did you do most of the work after you had it in digital? Did you do it in Photoshop?
Yeah, I finished all of these. I did all the high resolution finishing myself. In Photoshop. Yeah, and this title treatment, for instance, was rendered back then it was rendered in electric image. And then brought into Photoshop, and then you have to retouch it anyway, because you have to clean up some polygonal issues here and there and reflect things the way you want. But everything else is pure Photoshop. Absolutely. Okay, see what I got. I don't even know what's next. Hang with me, guys. Okay. 2009, I went to Focus Features, and they had a film called 9, and it was about these little creatures, these little magically animated creatures that existed in the world after man had gone away. And so I went to them and said, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody that you want to buy a movie ticket has a cell phone. Cell phones are able to read QR codes. What you need to do is go out with the QR code in a big way and mystify people, get them to look at it and get their interest. And if they scan this QR code, it will take them to special features and trailers and things that they can't see anywhere else. And so you will start this kind of underground movement, right? And so they did it, and about 12,000 people saw it. So we were just a little bit early, like about 15 years too early. So anyway, did everybody see the Super Bowl ad with the QR code that was just bouncing around? Did anybody see that? It was, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still an early idea. It's not quite there. So this is the Payoff Poster, and I show this Payoff Poster because I think it's just a beautiful image. This is one of the creatures. This is 9. This is guy 9. And this was the final poster. And I was just really happy with it. And I wanted to talk about process for a second. All of these things down at the bottom here, the doll head and the weight in the book and all that stuff, I just went out to various stores in Hawthorne and just bought those things and photographed them and stuck them in. And then we got the character was rendered by the filmmakers for us at high resolution. And I just love this piece. I think it's a beautiful piece. I was very happy with it. I was very happy with the campaign too, although nobody saw it. So there you go. All right. Let's see what I got next. Jimmy Neutron. I got to work on some children's product. It was very, very cool. We did sketches, and then the animators created the actual characters for us based on our sketches. And it was just really, really fun. The environment, this really weird kind of spherized environment, we asked the filmmakers to render it for us, and they said, we can't. So we just took parts and illustrated it together. It was a tremendous amount of work, but it was really fun. Really enjoyed it. And I love Jimmy Neutron. Balls of Fury, a huge comedy with tiny balls. I show this because I love how provocative and crazy and nutty this is, and I can't believe it got printed. I absolutely love this poster. This was the idea of that designer that I talked about earlier, Scott Dobson, and then it was executed largely by Bill Stiebel in Electric Image. And I think it's fabulous. This is the Payoff, which is nicely crafted, but not nearly as good. This is what I call the soup can ethic of advertising. Okay. In other words, what do you put on a soup can, right? You put a picture of soup. So this is basically the idea. Show everything that's in it. I thought it was nicely done, but that's kind of like at the top end you got that fabulous teaser, and then you got this. Let's see what we got next here. Okay, this was painted in gouache by Dave Christensen again, the guy who painted the tree for Pan's Labyrinth. And this was part of a series for Rugrats in Paris. And what we did was we took famous paintings and then adapted them for these characters. So we have Seurat, we have Van Gogh, we have I believe it's Pizarro, and we have come on guys, Degas. Yes, thank you. All done by different artists. It was really fun and a great campaign. Really enjoyed it. Okay, Star Trek. I did all of the Generations campaigns. I don't know if anybody's a Star Trek fan. Anybody a Trekkie? Anybody? No? Yes? No? No? Okay, no. All right. So I had this particular shot was actually a toy enterprise that we bought at Toys R Us because they hadn't executed the ship yet and they didn't have a 3D model. So we shot it and then we retouched the hell out of it to make it look better. So that was this piece, which was conceptualized by Kevin Bachman, very, very talented creative director, still at work in the business. This shot of William Shatner here, this eyeball, I was very happy with this because if you look at the final piece, then this is the Enterprise that we shot in Industrial Light and Magic once it was built. That's how beautiful it got to be. And then here is Picard, looking great. And then finally, I just want to point this out. This shot of William Shatner, if anybody ever sees this movie, that's the best shot of William Shatner you'll ever find. We really worked hard for that. This is a beautiful, I thought a beautiful execution. I spent a week on it using 4 computers simultaneously to get it done. I'm just going to kind of let this run through some of these things real quick. Any questions? Any questions? Anybody? Okay. All right, then.
Are they still washes, some of them, or is this all digital?
Well, it's an interesting mix. This space, for instance, was executed in plastilina. We actually sculpted it, and then we painted it. We actually flooded it with paint and photographed it. So it was a practical sculpture. Then the rest of it, the ship itself is a photograph of the actual ship from Industrial Light and Magic, and then everything else is digital. I think one of the things that I like most about this business is that the thing about print, and I've been calling print static lately because print is everywhere and it's online and it's on the browsers and all that stuff. So it pretty much is, it has all kinds of uses. But one of the great things about it is you're really not totally dependent on the film. You're really not. You can execute things that represent the film, that symbolize the film, that aren't necessarily in the film. So it's very fun that way because you can paint, you can sculpt, you can just, frankly, you can make stuff up, and it's really fun. This particular image, for instance, this hand holding this knife, we didn't have the hand holding the knife, and we didn't have the knife either. So I went to the hand prop room and rented a knife, and that's my hand. So there you go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. This next piece. Have you guys ever heard of Snakes on a Plane?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some. Okay. Snakes on a Plane was like this epically bad movie, but it was amazing because Samuel Jackson went out and he said they were talking to me about making this movie, and I said, what's the name? They said, Snakes on a Plane. He said, Snakes on a Plane? I have to make that movie. Who would not want to see that movie, Snakes on a Plane? Right? So this is a piece that we did for Snakes on a Plane. This is the teaser art that we did for Snakes on a Plane. And it's to my mind, it's a very graceful, very beautiful piece of art. Again, this was the guy that did the Tomb Raider typography, Scott Dobson. This was his concept. And then again, it was executed by Bill Sneevold in 3D. That year on Rotten Tomatoes, we won the poster contest on Rotten Tomatoes for Best Poster and for Worst Poster for the same movie. Because the Payoff Poster was so bad. It was so awful, I'm not going to show it to you, but it was terrible, and we did both of them. So. All right, let's see. What do I got next? Lego! Okay, I got to do the Lego movie. This was so cool. This was so epically cool. This concept was done by a young woman, creative director now, Paige Johnson. Very talented. And of course what we did was we got all kinds of CG renders and stuff. But before we could do the CG, we had to build the comps, right? So what we did was we hired a master builder. We hired an actual Lego master builder, and we built thousands of characters, and we built cities, and we built cars, and we built all kinds of stuff. I had 3 8x4 sheets of 1-inch plywood, completely covered with city, with desert, with roads. I mean, it was spectacularly difficult and really fun. This is the payoff piece. The payoff was worked on by a number of people. I'm going to give credit here to Mo Soleimanpour, who is a senior art director now, very, very talented guy. And then a few more of these pieces, but there's one thing in particular I want to show you because I'm so proud of it. So this I thought was a very beautiful campaign. I created, directed, some of our art directed like this. This was my design. This was my design as well. These are outdoor. It's extremely complex, but it's also really fun. Sorry, that's a little repetitive. Okay, now, I sent this idea to the filmmakers in the first round, 2 years before it got printed. 2 years before it got printed. I sent them this idea, and this was the joke. It's a bus shelter. It's this tall, okay? The joke in Hollywood is that they always make the stars' heads really big, right? That's the joke. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to take a Lego character whose head is that big, right? And blow it up to the size of a bus shelter. Wouldn't that be funny? Just a joke on Hollywood, right? The idea went in, nothing. Never heard a word about it for 2 years. And then towards the end, they came back and they said, you know, this big head thing is hysterical. Let's do it. So I wound up doing big head executions for all of the characters. And I gotta say, they're still some of my favorite stuff. I think they're just very fun and very, very cute. But going one step further than that, think about these spaces as kind of like iconography, right? Think about how that face is designed. What if you zoomed in even farther and really all you got was the shapes of the face, right? So this was a series that I also did. And I also, by the way, Batitude, that's my expression, thank you, I wrote that, thank you. I was really happy that the filmmakers got it, you know, they got the sense of humor and they went with it. They also did fantastic, you know, giant 10,000 pixel renders for us, really beautiful stuff. So, questions, anybody? Bueller? No? Yes?
So at what point you know, you know this is what you want to do? Because it all seems so different. You're so thinking back as a movie to move from different genres of films. So where were you prior to this, like leading up to this part of your career?
Leading up to doing this work?
Not specifically Lego movie, but just
This work in general?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I'm actually done with this section, so I'm going to do a very, very quick, I promise you I won't spend a lot of time, I'm going to do a very quick overview of how I got there. So in 1979, okay, I went to the University of Denver to study fine art, and I studied printmaking, ceramics, and sculpture. I did that for 2 years. I realized it was a horrible mistake, so I dropped out. And I started working as a production artist. Then I got married, and in 1983, I went to Otis Parsons, which was on the Chenard campus down there by MacArthur Park in those days. And I studied communication design and illustration. And I was very, very fortunate to have some great instructors, and I met a lot of people who were from LA. I was from Oklahoma. I didn't know anybody. But I was very fortunate to meet people who did have connections. And I dropped out of that school too because I ran out of money. And so one of my instructors said, I want you to interview with these two people. And I interviewed with Rod Dyer, who is a great designer and a great design firm for a very long time. And I interviewed with Dave Willardson, who is a great illustrator. And Rod offered me a part-time job, and Dave offered me a full-time job, so I took the full-time job because I needed the money. So I started painting for a living. And I did that from, for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And it occurred to me, it took a long time for me to figure this out, but I actually got fired from that job. I thought I quit. You know how that is? Like, they make you feel like you're doing it on your own, but like over time I finally realized, oh, they wanted me to leave. Those guys fired me. So I was like, I was okay, but that wasn't very good. So I left there, and a friend of mine said, hey, you should be designing movie posters, right? And so I got into the business in 1986 as a production artist, building mechanicals and things like that, before PostScript environments, before Quark Express, before InDesign, et cetera, et cetera. But because I could draw, and because I could design with type, because I had been educated that way, I became a designer and then an art director very, very quickly. So that was 86. 87 I left and I went to a place called Bemis Balkan, and I got to go around and do some photo shoots. I got to shoot Robert Downey Jr. and stuff like that. It was really cool. Then somebody hired me as creative director at RCA Columbia Home Entertainment. And that was this crazy environment because home entertainment was about 10 years old at that time, but it was making huge amounts of money. It was making hundreds of millions of dollars that nobody ever expected to make. It was found money, all right? And so what they were doing was they were pouring it back into content. Like, has anybody ever heard of Sex, Lies, and Videotape? Is there no? Nope, gone, okay. Soderbergh's first film, amazing. That was funded by RCA Columbia Home Entertainment. They actually produced that movie. And I had this job where all I had to do, it was a very small company, all I had to do was show them a sketch. And if they said, yeah, we like it, I could go hire a photographer, shoot the sketch, and then take it into a place called Electric Paint. And Electric Paint was like Photoshop, way before Photoshop. And so the first time I showed them a sketch and they said, can you do that? And I said, yeah. Went out and shot it, made it into art. I came back, they just said, okay, you get to do what you want. So I had $3 million to make pretty much anything I wanted to make. And I got to make dozens and dozens and dozens of pieces of art. So I became expert in high resolution imaging and in that process. Okay, so that's basically what led me into the area of being able to do this. When Photoshop came out, I was working in Photoshop in beta, and luckily this business, because it's very high risk, because there's a lot of money involved in it, this business will support new technology. And so as new things come out and new ways of working come out, the business will say, yeah, I don't care how you do it, just do it, because they're betting hundreds of millions of dollars on a film, right? So they don't care if you're using Photoshop, they don't care if you're using Nuke, they don't care what you're using for your CG, just as long as it gets done, as long as it's beautiful, they'll pay for it. So it's kind of amazing in that respect. And did that answer your question? You're like, dude, that was way more than I wanted to know. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Were you always interested in watching films, and do you watch the films that you make the posters for?
Okay, that is such a good question. This is my speedball textbook. This is my speedball textbook from 1972 that has all kinds of type in it and ways to create type. I was 11 years old when I got this. I started making posters when I was a kid. I started drawing type when I was very young. I started drawing type with pictures of people in them, very young. And I love movies, and I love to be entertained. I'm not really a critic. I just, I like Pan's Labyrinth. I like Avengers movies. I enjoy them. But I didn't get in because of movies. I got in because of graphics. I got in because I love type, and I love putting type together with images, and I always have. since I was just really young. And that's, I think the designers that I'm most attracted to are people like Anne Cassandra, and Joseph Binder, and Jean Carlu, and those guys that, back in those days when you painted your type into the image, you know. And now we have these fantastic tools that allow us to integrate those environments, you know, and bring those things into real fruition. So we're very fortunate right now to be able to do what we can do. What time we got? Is it almost 8 o'clock? How are we doing on time?
10 to 8, you're fine.
Okay, how are you guys doing? Should we get up and dance for a minute or anything? Or is everybody okay? You doing all right? Okay, yeah, people are like, yeah, okay. All right, okay, I want to talk to you about, real quick, about why this business is the way it is. Because trust me, if you walk out of here and you go, wow, that was so exciting, I want to do that. Trust me, at some point in your career you will go, screw that guy for getting me into this business. At some point in your life you'll say that. Because it's very frustrating in many ways too. I have a little thing I can run in the background, which I'll run in a minute, and it's got 1,000 images in it. It's got 1,000 images. Literally. I promise you, almost none of them have ever been seen by anybody. And the reason I love this job is because I get to design, and I get to make things, and I get to try to find ways to solve these creative challenges. That being said, 99% of everything you make will get killed. That's just the business, right? Everything dies on the way to that one poster or those 10 posters, okay? So it can be very frustrating in that way. And I will see if I can show you why right now. View, full screen. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to the beginning of this. Gosh, I hate laptops, guys. Are you all laptop people? All young people are laptop people. It's like, guys like me just hate it. Okay, here's what it is. Here's what goes on. Okay, up at the top, you've got this timeline, 18 months. Okay, most films are going to take 18 months to 2 years, depending on what kind of film they are. That's just the time they're going to take. If it's an animated picture, it usually takes about 2 years. It's just a lot of work, okay? And there's a process that they go through in developing this project, okay? There's a script, then you go to pre-production, then you go to production, then you go into post-production, and then you release it. And that process of making that content, whether it's a film or it's a series or whatever it is, that process is the process that happens. And it happens in a fairly linear fashion, because it kind of has to. Each step is based on the step before. It kind of has to happen that way. All right? So you have this kind of like, imaginary orderly process. Okay? But it is imaginary. So below that, what I did was I broke out social, digital, print, static, and audiovisual campaigns, and how those campaigns develop based on where you are in the production schedule, right? Okay, so then I just started in January just for the hell of it. You can start any time, but we start in January. And you'll see two things in there, summer vacation and holidays. The summer vacation and the holidays, in the theatrical world, in the exhibition world, if anybody ever goes back to movie theaters, those are the times when everybody's in the theater. The entire families are there for the holidays and for the summer. So they're very, very high volume areas. Now, understand that the theatrical exhibition space, cinemas, are one of the only environments in the world where literally everyone in it has already bought the product, okay? Nobody is shopping. They have bought the product. They have committed to a movie. So what you're doing is you are pitching your idea for the next show to people who are committed entertainment consumers, okay? That's still, to a very large extent, true. People go on Netflix and they shop. I do. Go on Disney Plus and they shop. I look around. You know, when you're in a theater, man, you bought a ticket. And you are committed, okay? So in that space, in that rarefied space, you want to be in the theater during summer vacation and holidays for sure, because then you're getting everybody, right? Now, anymore these days, you can release a film, or it used to be, okay, sorry. You used to be able to release a film at any time of the year and do pretty well. I believe that's going to come back, but we'll see what happens. So you start out with a script, and I'm just going to focus on print for a second. What happens with the script is, nobody's done anything to figure out what the movie looks like yet. Nobody's figured out what the visual identity of the movie is. So at that point, you can get away with anything. You can make anything. You can make cool logos, you can make 2 little white egg-shaped chairs and call it Men in Black and get away with it. Because nobody knows what you're doing. And you come out with these things and the audience goes, wow, what's that? That's all you need. All you need is for them to be interested in what that is. So you're trying to grab them symbolically, conceptually, very, very early. All right? That's where early awareness comes in. And you're going to do research, copywriting, concept development, and you're going to start working on visuals in print staff, all right? And that rolls into pre-production, concept art, costume design, set design. That's when things start to happen on the movie and you start to see what things are going to look like. That's really valuable because at that point then you can say, okay, now I can start to draw on some of these other resources to figure out what my symbol might be or what my image might be. And you can see what's happening is you're rolling in towards summer vacation. What you want to do is you want to have a teaser, some kind of thing in there for summer vacation, whatever it is. Maybe it's a funky looking egg with green stuff coming out of it. It says, in space, no one can hear you scream, right? Okay, the alien poster. That poster had nothing to do with what was in the movie. That movie did not look like that poster. Nobody cares, okay? It's one of the greatest movie posters ever made because, not because of the image, which was funky and spooky, but because of the copy line. In space, no one can hear you scream. One of the best copy lines ever written. Put that on a black poster and you have done your job, okay? So have respect for the word, okay? Because copywriting, we're all visual people, and copywriters are working with words. We deal in symbolism, they deal in super symbolism. They deal in little tiny marks that make pictures in your brain. So respect those guys. They're very powerful and valuable. So you want to get in there to summer vacation, but let's say you can't. Let's say you just don't have it. You just don't have everybody signed out yet. So now you're rolling towards the holidays, right? So this is where that piece for Angelina, where she was crouching, that was supposed to come in the holidays. And we had it at the very end of November, and she killed it at the end of November, which means we had nothing. We had nothing to go into theaters with. So we lost summer and holidays on that movie. Now, there was still plenty of press on it, but we didn't have a chance to craft that identity. Okay. Nowadays, with the amount of interest and participation online, nowadays, fans start crafting their own artwork immediately, start making their own stuff, right? So as a marketer, you have to ask yourself what you're going to do when a film gets announced. Not even when a film is in pre-production, but when it's announced. What are you going to do? Are you going to let the audience set the level, or are you going to try to influence that level, right? How can you influence the level of the art? You don't know what things look like, you don't know but what you can do is you can make the coolest title treatment that ever existed and give it to people. And they will make great art and put your title treatment on it, and they will brand their work with your identity. Okay, so that's what early awareness is. Get that initial identity out there so that it can start to flow across all of basically the free media that exists right now. Once we get into production, we start getting principal photography, unit coverage, and VFX pre-visualization. At that point, we're starting to get actual resources. We're starting to get unit photography. We're starting to get pictures. What we want to do at this point is we want to get the talent and do amazing photography that's very, very high quality so we can use that to make great campaigns. You have to get them at that point because after production closes, they're gone. They're on to the next movie. They're just not available. So you have to get it here. That's why you're doing sketches here. Sketches lead into approval from everybody, and then you go into special photography. All right? Then you get into the early campaign, the early awareness, again, if you hit the holidays. And then you start rolling into the final campaign. Okay, Godzilla. We did this fantastic campaign for Godzilla. And it was just his tail. It was just his tail. All you could see was his tail. And everybody was like, whoa, that's amazing. He's so big, you can't get him on the poster. You can only see his tail, right? Okay, the reality was all we had was the tail. That's all we had. Godzilla did not exist, okay? Because Godzilla happens in post-production, and we wanted to be in the theaters. So they gave us the tail, so we made a super cool poster out of the tail. We got a lot of kudos for how conceptual it was. You know, lemonade out of lemons. And then you're rolling into your main campaign, which is going to be all kinds of stuff. It's going to be outdoor, bus shelter, billboards, transmedia, but it's also going to be interactive media. It's going to be cinemagraphs. It's going to be all kinds of animations, things like that that exist online. All of these things derive usually from print. The reason they derive from print because print is symbolic. Print is a fast read. Print is a powerful read. It's different than what happens in audiovisual, which is almost always based on what's in the film. That's great. It talks, it moves, it dances, but it's not as symbolically powerful as the static image, if that static image is working properly. Any questions? Okay, all right. While you're doing this, there's going to be madness and mayhem. While you're in this process that makes all this sense, crazy things will happen. They will look at an idea and they'll say, no, it's a bad idea, and they'll throw it in the corner. And then 6 months later, they'll pull it out and go, you know, this was a pretty good idea. Will you do this again? And they will come to you and they'll say, stop doing what you're doing and do something else. This is very frustrating. This is not the process that we all learn. We all learn this logical development process whereby we talk to the client educates us, then we educate the client as to the solution, and it's the stop the process. This is not that. This is a ball of mayhem, okay? Trust me. But it is what actually happens. It is what actually works. Any questions? Any questions? Yes?
So I can't believe it's like a film group. They are treating like choosing one.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So it's like a one film, they won't choosing like choosing.
One image?
No, one image. It's like for choosing company for creating.
Oh, no, they work with many companies.
Also, you guys will be like key.
Oh, absolutely. And the reason they work with more than one company is because nobody has all the ideas and nobody has all the talent. And you're not really competing with each other. You know, people want to set it up that way. I'm going to beat those guys. I'm going to beat those guys. You're really not. What you're doing is you're exploring. And the client is looking at your work and trying to find the way. And what they're trying to find, unfortunately, is not necessarily the best ad. It's the ad that has the least risk. Because they're very frightened people. They're betting hundreds of millions of dollars. And they don't want to be wrong. This is why when you look at Hollywood posters, 9 out of 10 of them look like other Hollywood posters. Because Hollywood is afraid of doing really breakout stuff. That's why every now and then you see a breakout piece and you're like, boom, you know, wow, that's amazing. Like the Silence of the Lambs poster. This is a great poster. You know, this went to the filmmakers and the producer saw it and the director saw it and just said, that's it. And that's how it got done. It was an amazing piece. I think the Truman Show Mosaic poster was a very cool poster, and that got done because the producer saw it and he made the studio use it. Otherwise, they weren't going to use it because they thought this is just too weird. What is it? You know, so you know, great posters. People talk about movie posters and they say movie posters are not as good as they used to be. You know, like you go back in the old days and you look at the old posters, they were great. You know, to me, this is a function of just the winnowing of time. Okay. There are 900 films released every year. 900, okay? 50 years from now, there will be 1 or 2 great posters from this year that people remember. 2 great posters every year for 50 years is 100 great posters. People will look back on it and go, they were so good back then, but now they're terrible. It's just the fact that over time, the dreck leaves. It does happen. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff is very conservative. Any questions? How are you guys doing? How are we doing on time?
We're okay. Like
Okay.
Another 20 minutes?
Okay, 20 minutes and we'll wrap it up. Okay, process real quick. Early identity, working on logos, trying to figure out. If you look at this, this is the first round of logos we did. If you look at this one right here, that's basically what wound up being the final logo. Okay, here's my thumbnail for the big head idea. That was the first time I drew it. That's the final piece. That almost never happens. I'm very happy about that. These are photo shoot sketches. This is a body double photo shoot. These are the comps that derive from that towards a teaser piece, which actually is this one up here. These are sketches that were done for Angelina. This is the actual shoot with Angelina. This is the body double shoot. You can see our little kickboxer over here hanging from the plex. These are comps. These are just some of hundreds and hundreds of comps that were done. And then this is the finished campaign. So that's a very, very quick kind of process overview. All right. Now, at this point, guys, I can roll forever. So you guys got any questions? Is anybody interested in anything? Questions? No? Shaking hands?
I have a question.
Yes.
So how do you see this business evolving for you now?
Okay, I'm about to get into augmented reality in a very big way. And for me, what I want to achieve in augmented reality is I want to create intuitive, organic, creative environments that allow people to make great stuff. That's what I want. So I want to create an intuitive world, augmented reality world environment that allows you to be David LaChapelle, that allows you to art direct BTS videos. You know, I want to make that kind of creative space. That's what I want next. And I am a partner in a company that's about to fund, and so I'm going to do it. That's what it is for me. To me, all of this artwork and all of this thousands of pieces of design and stuff like that, all of it is just training. Everything you do is training for the next thing you do. Everything you do is. And for me, all of this stuff, like this was for a CBS Studios International big thing that they were doing. They do every year to show all their TV shows to stations and things like that. The reason I wanted to show this is because this looks exactly to me like what I did with type explorations as a student. Exactly. Because the first principles you learn, the first principles of design, the first principles of exploration, of problem solving, those will always apply to everything you do. Every fundamental that you learn will always apply. So I started learning this stuff back when you had to draw this time, when you had to do it with a rapidograph, or you had to paint it with Plaka, or that kind of thing. And that trains your hand, but it also trains your eye and trains your mind about mass, about scale, about interesting kind of ways of looking at things. And so I put this in here because this was kind of like my initial shape exploration for this. I'm trying to figure out how to get that little thing to go away. It's making me crazy. There you go. So this will just run forever in the background. This is like 1,000 pieces of stuff. You don't have to pay attention to it if you don't want to, but you'll be able to see from here where these things went in terms of their color executions. For me, they start out as structural ideas, then they turn into color and spatial ideas. And that's kind of the process that I go through with this type of work. Questions, thoughts? Anybody? No. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so why do you think you love color so much? Especially when you're young.
That's such a crazy question, you know, man. I just don't know. There's something about type I still love. Like if I'm in a meeting and I'm like going out of my mind, I'm so bored, I start drawing words. I start drawing type. It's my doodle. It's what I do. I just don't know. I have really terrible vision, and maybe there's something about the clarity of it. Maybe there's something about the absoluteness of it that's attractive to me. I started sculpting before I started drawing, and I'm basically a three-dimensional thinker. And I think that type is so structural, and it has such clarity, but it also has such fluidity. It's just, I don't know what it is, man. It's just super attractive. I think that, you know, I keep trying. My whole career I've been trying. You can approach this business two ways. You can approach it from the point of view of designing what you think the client will buy, or designing what you think the client needs. Okay? Sometimes those are the same thing, and sometimes they're not. And your job is to try to educate the client. Your job is to try to say, yeah, you could do that, and that's cool. But you could do this, and this is cooler, and will have more impact. And you have to give them a viable professional solution. But you also have to try to give them that chance to do something special and new. Because they can't buy it if you don't make it. You have to show them. Okay? And that is very frustrating. Because you show them 1,000 great things and they pick like the one mediocre one. That's very frustrating. But if you go at it from the point of view of giving them what you think they're going to buy, it's a spiral down towards mediocrity. You have to work towards what you think they need and what's amazing and what will cut through the clutter and still solve the problem. I think you have to do that. Otherwise, I don't think you're really designing. I think you're just kind of like trying to read their minds. And you can't read a client's mind because they don't know. That's why they hired you. Okay? They hired you because you're cooler than them. That's why they hired you. You know things they don't know. They need that. That's why they're paying. They're not paying you because you're cute, right? They're paying you because you know things they don't know. You need to educate. And that's frustrating because they don't always listen. They frequently do not listen at all. I'm going to jump ahead to some of this crazy stuff. This is some of that insane Batman stuff with things that we build and photograph and just complete nuttiness. Batman, Lego Batman. Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts? How are you guys doing? Yes, sir.
Sorry, you asked a question.
No, thank you.
How do you think you continue to, I guess, expand creativity, especially being in this industry for so long?
Okay. I think that one of the things about art history that's so important, it's so important to learn art history, is that you see the impulses of artists kind of rising to the surface in the culture over and over again, trying to do something new, trying to do something super creative, super fun. And I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's a combination of checking the zeitgeist, like Pinterest. I mean, just like, dude, look at Pinterest, man. There's such great, cool stuff in there. It's just so many people doing so many wild things. There's so much fun to get. But it's a combination of that, and it's a synthesis, again, of those kind of first creative principles. For me, that's what it is. I look at what people are doing, and I go, wow, I want to make stuff that's that cool. I want to be that cool. I want to come up with those ideas. And just keep pushing it, you know, and it's hard to do because you keep getting smacked, you know. you will do this. All of this stuff here is like all stuff that nobody bought. This is all stuff nobody bought. So You know, it's like, I was trying to have fun with it, I was trying to have fun with type, I was trying to have fun with image, and, you know, different ways of structuring it. You can see that a lot of them fit into the standard kind of poster trope, but some of them are a little more fun. It is a difficult, it's a difficult process, you know. But you gotta keep your eye open and keep checking the zeitgeist, I think. Especially when you get to be my age, you really have to check it. So. Yes.
So when you said that you could design from the perspective of what they want or
What they need.
Yeah, what they need.
Yeah.
And what about what they tell you?
Say again?
What about what they tell you?
Okay, yes, you're right. When the client comes to you and says, do this, what you need to do is you need to apply your knowledge and your professionalism to answering that ask as well as it can be answered. You need to really try to do it. But then the next thing you need to do is show them the better way to do it. So when they come back to you and they say, look, put this head on this body, and you're like, whoa, that's just bad. That's just a bad idea. I'll do the best I can do. But then what you say is, what are they trying to achieve? They're trying to achieve this emotion, right? Well, there's another shot that looks better. It's got this emotion. So I'll show them both of them. I'll say, look, here's what you asked for, but here's what I think does what you need more than what you asked me to do. And I think that that's what you have to do with the client. You have to answer them because they're the client, they're paying the bills, but you have to answer them in a responsible way, and sometimes being responsible is showing them what's better. Does that answer your question? Yeah, because they will tell you what to do, and that's a bummer. But you know, you always got to come back. You got to come back with more energy. Okay, so guys, yes.
Poster, there are many elements, like such as the Lego thing. There are many different colors and stuff. Like, how do you get that all in harmony, like together? Do you apply the same like filters to them?
Okay. That is a great question, and I think that's something that you're right. A lot of these things are, some of these images are very simple and very singular, and then some of them, like the Lego, have hundreds and hundreds of parts. Are you asking me technically how I achieve it, or aesthetically how I achieve it? Technically? Okay, so technically what you do is, first off, you try to get the lighting right on things. So you try to get a consistent light source. This is really important because in a scene, when you have something that has different lighting, it's glaringly obvious to your eye. The human eye sees that very, very easily. So you try to get consistent lighting. Sometimes you have to use Photoshop very, very carefully to light something. That's a terrific amount of illustration work, but it is something you can do to a certain extent. It's very hard to change a direct light on a human face. That is very hard to do. So a lot of times the choice of elements is very important in terms of how they get together. Okay. Then there, on top of that, technically, there are other ways to do it. For instance, there are Photoshop filters that you can apply that will grade the entire image, that will bring everything into a specific color space. Okay. So for instance, you can take the image, make it a smart object, and bring it into Camera Raw. And then in Camera Raw, you can adjust all of the parameters. You can adjust hue, saturation, contrast, brightness, etc., holistically. And that can help very much to unify a piece. Lastly, I'm a big fan of atmosphere and light. I love, as you will see, looking at this stuff, you'll see like lens flares all over the place. I'm sorry, I dig them. And I like dust, and I like particles and stuff that kind of unify the image. So that's the last way I would try. Does that answer the question? Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, so guys, seriously, worth the time or not? What do you think? Worth it?
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, excellent. Is is anybody watching this crazy show, is anybody interested in doing this kind of work? Does this excite anybody, or are you all like, whoa? Yeah, maybe?
Can I send you my portfolio?
Pardon me?
Can I send you my portfolio?
You certainly can, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, happy to see it. Yeah, so I mean, it's like, it's nutty, but it's fun, so. That's what I got. If you want anything else, this goes on forever, and if you have questions you want to ask, I'm around, so.
We have one more question.
Oh, yes.
No, this is just kind of like a fun question. Like, do you have a favorite poster from last year? Last year, well, see, last year I kind of moved to Santa Fe, and so I started doing sculpture and painting. But last year I worked on Spider-Man Homecoming. And I did like 25 ideas for her, and they didn't buy any of them. So, so the last campaign that I did that I liked was Mulan, and I creative directed 9 pieces, but I personally designed 6 of them. And the campaign was cool. They kind of changed the idea. Let me see if I can get to Mulan here real quick. Whoops. That was for Legion. I just love doing that one too. Mulan is in here. Hang on. Whoops. There you go. So I really loved Mulan. And I wanted to do pieces that had a lot of characters in them that would come together to make a single piece, right? So which we call wild posting. It's where you put posters out on construction sites and things like that. And so I wanted to do a lot of pieces that would add up into big vistas. And I did one series that's of all of these people, each character holding a weapon, and someone is reflected in the weapon. And in my original concept, the person that was reflected in the weapon is the nemesis of that person, right? And the client, again, 2 years after I showed them ideas, 2 years, they came back and said, hey, we love this, let's do it. Except, in the weapons, we want everybody to be reflecting Mulan. Okay, well, what they did was, they basically, what I call that is a conceptectomy. They basically took an idea that was visually, okay, here you go. They took an idea that was kind of visually neat, and they turned it into a visually pretty thing, but not a conceptual thing anymore, right? I like it because it was part of the campaign, it was beautifully done. I was disappointed because they kind of missed the idea, you know? So, it'll show up here eventually, but the actual, I threw all this stuff in here, guys, because I've done thousands of these things, and I gotta say, I just dig it. I like the photography. Andre Benjamin was really cool to shoot. I like the finishing of it. I like working with children's product. I like working with dramas. It's just really fun stuff.
So Bryan will be with us on Thursday as well.